Hi boys and girls, it's good to be with you this morning. I can't quite be with you in person, but through the magic of computers, I can be with you here on the screen. So this is your assembly for today. We're not in the hall, we're not together as a school. I'm not there with you, but I can still be with you. And it's great that you are here this morning. So listen up to what I've got to teach you this morning. Now, before I tell you a little story from the Bible, I've got a question for you. And to help me with these two questions, I've got two objects. And what I want you to do is to think in your head, what would you most like if I was to give you for free? In other words, you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to do any tricks or any skills to show me that you deserve it. I am just going to hand it across to you. So if I could do that today, which obviously I can't, but if I could do that, what would you take? Now, two choices. Think very, very carefully about these choices. The first is a bit of bread. Now, this is a strange bit of bread because it's not very fresh. In fact, when we got this bread, it was going out a date the next day, and that was about 3 days ago. So by now, it's a little bit hard. It's a little bit stale. Would you like that? For free? You don't have to do anything, remember? Hands up if you would like the bread. Maybe one or two of you? Maybe not. Or how about a fun size share bag of Haribo? Who would like the bag of Haribo? Okay, so I'm guessing a few more of you will probably like that. So we have the stale bread and we have the Haribo. Hands up for the Haribo. Hands up for the stale bread. Haribo. Stale bread. Okay, now obviously I can't see you, so I can't see who's putting up their hands, but I'm guessing most of you are probably asking for the Haribo. Now, unfortunately, due to current government restrictions, I can't give you the Haribo, even if I wanted to, even if I could. So we'll toss that aside, and I can't even give you the stale bread. However, if any of yous were brave enough to reject the Haribo, it looks good, it's very colourful, tastes good, it's very sweet. If you were so bold enough to reject that and to take the stale bread, did you get a worse deal or a better deal? Well, you see, you would think that if you took the Haribo, it's the better deal. Because it looks good, it's colourful, it's fresh, the date is, well, it's still in date anyway, and these things last for years, so I wouldn't worry too much about the date. But I would say it looks a lot better than that. But if you had taken the bread, so anybody taking the bread? Some of you are maybe still starting to want to take the bread, right? And I was to do the very unhygienic thing, you won't want the bread after this, of sticking my fingers in, ripping the bread apart, and inside the bread is something that you don't see very often because they're very, very rare. It's a £50 note. It is genuine. Don't know if you can see the watermark, but it is genuine. £50. That's, if my maths serves me correctly, 50. Oh, I was never good at maths anyway, so I'll not even tell you how many pennies it is. But I'm guessing you're all much better than me, so you could probably tell me how many pennies that is. £50 note, just for choosing a bit of bread. Very unattractive, but inside the bread was something that is very, very valuable. So, why am I doing this morning, or this afternoon, or whenever you're watching it? Well, I'm doing this because it reminds me of a story that the Bible tells us. And the Bible tells us, it wasn't a true story, it was a story that Jesus made up to help teach the people that he was speaking to. And he told them the story about a man who goes and finds treasure in a field. Now, when you look at the field, it was probably nothing very attractive. A lot of dirt. And it was possibly the man's job to dig up the dirt for the person who owned the field. And as he dug the field, he found this treasure, and it was so valuable. And it was so precious to the man that he goes away Well, first of all, he buries the treasure so nobody else can find it. Then he goes away and buys the field. But in order to buy the field, he pays for it with everything that he owned. He sells his house. He sells, if he had a car, he didn't have a car in those days, but if he had a car, he'd sell his car. If he had a computer, he'd sell that. He sells everything that he owns. He gets all the money out of his bank literally till he had nothing left. And he exchanges all of that so he can buy the field. And of course, in buying the field, he buys the treasure too. So why did Jesus tell this story? Well, Jesus told the story to say that, well, that's kind of like what it means to trust in God. There's a verse in the Bible that says, "Do not store up treasures here on earth, where moth eat them, and rust destroys them, and thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourself treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy, and thieves do not break and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there your heart will be also." To trust in God, it might not seem very attractive. But if you make that the most important thing in your life, then all the things that God has in heaven, all the treasures in heaven, will be given to you. And that's what the Bible teaches us. That if we trust in God, then God has many great things to give us. Because heaven is a perfect place. It's not like this world where things get broken and things get damaged and things stop working after a while. Because things in heaven, they are eternal, they last forever. And God says that for those who trust in Him, He will give all the things in heaven too. That's an amazing story that the Bible teaches us. Make-believe story teaching us something that is very, very real. So the things in this world that don't last very long, that eventually get broken, stop working, however money gets spent, they might look better, just like the bag of Haribo. And you might read the Bible and you might hear the stories of Jesus and think, do you know what, it's just a boring bit of bread. But do you know, if we care to look down deep into what God has for us, and we can read about that in the Bible, then we can see that what God has is hidden treasure, and He wants to make that treasure available to us to see. And so, next time you have a choice and you've got something that looks terrible and something that looks a lot better, just think, you know, sometimes things aren't always what they seem. And you can maybe think about, well, is it good to set aside the thing? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you could eat the Haribo and your teeth will all fall out because they're full of sugar. You don't really need to eat the bread. You can throw that away, but you can keep the treasure. Now, I'm hoping nobody stuck their hand up because I don't want to have to part with this £50. So I'm guessing you all picked the sweets. But remember, everything's not always as they seem. You might have heard the phrase, don't judge a book by its cover. If something doesn't look good, chances are it is good when you look at what it's really worth.